When a small engine fails to start, you as a mechanic probably try to think of the possible problems, such as trouble with the fuel line, the fuel tank, wiring, the carburetor, the piston, spark plugs, or points. The quickest way to troubleshoot is to first stop and think. Next, organize your troubleshooting checkout into 3 basic systems: compression, ignition, and fuel. Check these systems step by step. Make sure you've completed one step before going on to the next one. Make the obvious checks first. Be sure there's fuel in the tank. Check to see if the vent in the fuel tank cap is open. And if the engine has a fuel shutoff valve, make sure that it's open. Next, make a visual check of the engine. Check the fuel line, the carburetor, and linkages. Look for bad conditions. Make sure that the high-tension wire is connected, that it's not grounded, and that it's in good condition. Now, check the compression. This is done by pulling on the starter rope. If the engine has compression, you can feel the pressure as the piston reaches top dead center. And as you continue to pull, the pressure will release. Let's take a look at the engine parts that can affect compression by using this cutaway drawing of a cylinder. On a 2-cycle engine, these parts are the spark plug gasket and piston ring. If you determine that the compression is all right, try to start the engine in the following manner. Close the choke to make sure the fuel mixture is reaching the cylinder. Then pull on the starter rope several times. If the engine still won't start, the next step is the ignition check. Here you'll be looking for a good spark. The first step of the ignition check is to remove the spark plug. Now make a visual inspection of the plug. Check the porcelain portion of the spark plug for cracks. Check the condition of the electrodes. And make certain that the electrodes have the proper air gap. If the spark plug appears to be in good condition, reconnect the high-tension wire to the plug, ground the spark plug to the engine, pull on the starter rope several times. Look for a blue spark between the 2 electrodes. All right, here you have a branching point. This means you can go one of 2 ways. If there is a good blue spark, the complete ignition system is okay. If the spark is weak, or if there is no spark, you must continue the ignition check. Let's assume that we have no spark at this point. Now, in place of the spark plug, we'll use a tester. Notice that the air gap on the tester is larger than the air gap on the spark plug. If the spark will jump this gap, you can be sure that the magneto assembly is working. Connect the tester between the high-tension wire and the engine. Now, pull on the starter rope several times and look for a blue spark at the tester. Here again, you have a branching point. If there is a blue spark across the tester's air gap, the magneto checks out. This means that the spark plug is bad and should be replaced. If there's not a spark at the tester, the magneto is bad and a complete ignition inspection must be made. To point out the possible ignition problems, we'll use a cutaway drawing of the ignition system. Possible defective parts could be the high-tension wire, the breaker points or condenser, the breaker cam, the coil and wires, or the magnet. Always use the manufacturer's service manual when checking out a complete system. Now let's go back to where we first used the tester. If you did get a good spark at the tester, you'd replace the old spark plug with a new one. After replacing the plug, you would again try to start the engine. Now, if it still wouldn't start, your next step would be to check the fuel system. Now, there are several ways to check the fuel system. However, here's a quick way to see if the fuel is reaching the cylinder. Remove the spark plug. Move the choke lever to the full choke position. Place your finger over the spark plug hole and pull on the starter rope a few times. If fuel is reaching the cylinder, your finger should be wet. This would prove that the fuel system is working. If your finger is not wet, the entire fuel system must be checked out. Using a cutaway drawing of the fuel system, let's list some of the possible problems such as lack of fuel, fuel tank troubles caused by dirt, a clogged screen, or water in the tank, a clogged or broken fuel line, a dirty air cleaner, carburetor problems, or the reed valves could be sticky. You'll have to refer to the manufacturer's service manual to properly check out the fuel system. In summary, the troubleshooting procedures shown in this film are based on the following facts. To run, an engine must have good compression, a good hot spark, and the proper air-fuel mixture. Remember, when troubleshooting, stop and think. Organize your checkout and follow a step-by-step procedure. This is the quickest and easiest way to locate the trouble.